Hey everybody, what's going on? It's your boy Average Fisherman, and today we're back with another video. I've been wanting to do this one for a while, as there's two different things we're going to cover today. There's a pro to this, and there's a con to this. And it can kind of be a controversial thing in the fishing industry. Some people are for it, some people are not for it. So, without further ado, let's dive into today's video. All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope everybody had a great weekend. And, first and foremost, I want to thank you all for being part of this journey. All the followers that I've been getting lately, all the comments, the wonderful things. Thank you all so much for everything that you do. Because without you, I couldn't be on this wonderful journey with you all together. Next, before we dive into the video topic today, I want to thank all my wonderful sponsors. Some of them you see right here behind me. I want to thank Old 18 Outfitters so much for producing a rod made in America. Everything's made in America and at a price point that is just phenomenal. I also want to thank Cross Baits. Cross Baits is the next big thing down here. I mean, and in the fishing industry, the way he designs the baits, what the thought process goes into them, I truly love everything that Cross Baits has about it. So I want to thank them. I want to thank Solar Bat sunglasses. Guys, there is a ton of fishing glasses on the market. There's sunglasses for anything you want to do. Gaming, you want to do fishing, you want to do performance, you want to drive, and Solar Bat's got you covered. Make sure you guys go check them out. They have amazing sunglasses at an absolutely amazing price point. So go check them out. I also want to thank Platinum Nutrition here in Jasper. Guys, I've been going to them to get my protein shakes and everything in the morning when I have to go to work and I need something on the go. Go check them out. They're straight across from McDonald's. Platinum Nutrition here in Jasper. And, I want to thank Zilla Gear Outdoors. These guys, we linked up together over a year ago, and they make phenomenal jerseys. It's what you see me wearing in all my fishing, videos and things of that nature. And right now, there's no better time to invest in some fishing jerseys. They're vented on the sides. They've got a hood, or they have another model without a hood. It's up to you to decide what you want. Some guys like buffs. Some guys like the hood. I love the hood. It keeps my glasses from fogging up. So thank you all so much to my sponsors out there. Super grateful for all of them. Without them, I couldn't be doing what I'm doing. So let's dive into today's controversial subject. There's a lot to it here. So what we're going to cover today, and I've been wanting to do this video for a while now, is we're going to cover tournaments. And what I mean by tournaments is we're going to cover off-limits time and no off-limits time. As you know, if you're part of the fishing world and you fish any kind of tournaments, you know that some of these tournament organizations have off-limits time, meaning that you can't, if the tournament is on this Saturday, let's say, you can't be on the water from Monday to, let's say, Thursday. Because most of your tournaments that have off limits, they have official practice days. Okay. So if you've got off limits from Monday to Thursday, well, Friday is your official practice day. Now, that doesn't include the weekend before. You can go fishing as much as you want the weekend before, but you got to be off the water from Monday to Thursday. You can't put your boat on the water and go fishing. On Friday is your official practice day. Saturday would be the tournament. Okay. That's what off limits looks like. And then you have the other side of stuff that you have tournament organizations that don't have any off limits. And today we're going to dive into the pros and cons of each one. Okay. And then I'm going to tell you what I kind of like at the very end. And please, I would love to hear all of your thoughts in the comment section, whether this is on my YouTube channel or on Facebook. If you all want to comment in the Facebook, please comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this matter. So let's go ahead and start off with the pros to off-limit time. So here are the pros that I personally feel like, and this is all just my opinion, okay? These are just opinions. They're not facts. I don't want to trigger anybody in the comment section. That's not what this is about. The pros to having off limits time. Okay. If you're tracking everything fishing in the fishing industry right now, you know that everything's getting more expensive. Okay. Everybody has their ups and downs on the whole live scope thing, which is a whole nother subject. Okay. And then we get into the tournament organizations, and then you get that thing like, well, I wish there was off limits. And you got guys that are like, I don't want off limits. And then you've got guys that are, also complaining about entry fees going up and payouts getting less. And then you've got, the whole aspect of like, well, they're just paying too many places out. And all that is a whole separate video by itself in itself. But today we're just going to cover those off limits times, and we're going to kick off with the pros, like I said. The first thing that I think the pro would be to having off limits would be you would create an entire equal playing field. Okay. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about graphs. I'm not talking about live scope. I'm not talking about having any of those extra advantages, if you want to call them. Set yourself up like tools for success, let's say. Creates an even playing field. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is I have a regular job that I go to every day, 7 to 3:30, 7 to 4 o'clock, right? Every day, Monday through Friday, that's what I have. If I want to take off to go pre-fishing for an upcoming event, I have to put my time in, my time off request. Then if it gets approved, then I go out and do my practicing, however many days I ask off. So having off limits creates an equal playing field for time on the water. So where a lot of pushback's going to come from a lot of people, it's like, well, I can afford to be off all week and I can afford to go do this. That's great. I'm glad that you're in a spot like that. Hey, hats off to you. You've obviously put in a lot of hard work and you're reaping the benefits from it. That's a lot of things that you hear. Well, why do I have to suffer? Because, Joe has to work all day and he can't afford to take off, but I can. So why am I, at a disadvantage of that now? And I don't think that realistically it's at a disadvantage by any means. I don't think it's hindering the angler that can't, go out there and pre-fish. And I don't think it's really hindering the angler on a big picture of things, the angler that can be off all week. I think you have to look at it from a perspective of tournament. So how do you level the playing field and, with somebody that could be off all week and go fish and, other guys that can't afford to go fish all week? They have to work. Off limits creates that. You can go fish in the weekend before. You can get all of your wonderful information about the lake through social media still. You're just not allowed to be on the lake, flipping a line and rod into the water, so you're not allowed to be on there. So I think that it creates an even playing field for the tournament itself. It can, I see where guys are upset where it creates an unequal playing field for if they can afford to be on the water the whole week and put the time in on the water. I get that. But I think as an overall picture, the big picture of stuff, the anglers being off the water all week creates an even playing field as far as time on the water. Okay. The second pro to having, the off limits time would be, you as an angler, when you're out there practicing, if you're like me, and I only get really the weekend before and maybe 1 or 2 days at most between my tournaments, it gives me a time to sit down and think about my process. It makes me sit down and really focus on what's going to be the best thing to do, whether it be offshore, stay shallow, or a combination of both. It really makes your practice time and it makes you focus on, one, really you're going to stay in your wheelhouse, but because you want to be comfortable. But two, it really makes you settle down and think about, instead of running and hitting 4,000 areas, you focus on your angling skills and you focus on what is going on around the lake. So it helps you kind of focus, in my opinion, as an angler, this is what I need to focus on instead of focusing on this many things. Another thing I think it helps, create is, we all know that information sharing is a very real deal. Okay. And in some of these bigger tournament organizations, they have specific rules that you're not allowed to go talk to, Jerry that is not fishing the tournament and get information from him. Okay. I think that what it does is I think it could create more of that to start going on, but also it really forces anglers to get good at doing research and looking for those resources to get that water temperature. Or if you had a Thursday night tournament, what won, and see if you can dig into, what was it won on? Was it won on, cranking or whatever. So I think it forces you as an angler to really be resourceful. That whole week you're off the water and keeping an eye on stuff to help yourself get better. Number 4, in my opinion, is it cuts down on the fishing pressure on the lake a lot. Now, guys are and gals are gonna say, well, there's still people out there fishing regardless, whether or not you have, off limits time or not. You're right. But if we have a tournament that's going to draw 400 boats, and at least 200 of those boats, we're just going to cut it in half, do beer math. We're going to cut it in half, and we know at least 200 anglers is going to be on the lake every single day, Monday to Friday. If you have, no off limits, okay? But if you have off limits and you have 200 anglers that are not going to be on the water, well, that lessens the fishing pressure on a lake. Okay. Yes, you're still going to get your everyday anglers that's going to go out there and they're going to go fishing and so forth, but you're adding to the pressure on the lake before the tournaments kick up. So that's just a pro. Okay. And like I said, these are all my opinions. Please don't, take them to the bank. Okay. So cons to off limits, and I kind of threw a couple cons into off limits in the mix, but realistically cons, you're not on the water. You can't really get your finger on exactly what the fish is doing, because Monday through Friday, and depending on what time of year that is, the fish could be here and the next minute they could be way up there on the bank. Okay. Specifically, I'm talking about springtime. Okay. And that could definitely hinder you. If you've got a spot that you've been smashing them offshore going into that pre-spawn or, going into spawn, they're in pre-spawn mode. Yeah, I mean, you're on them every day. You're just going by. You're not fishing for them. You're just idling by, and you're seeing if it's loading or the fish are unloading, meaning leaving. Okay, and if you're able to track them leaving, they're going to the bank, or that they've rotated off the hard spot more into a brush pile, or they've went down this hard spot ledge 150 meters now. Okay. That's where, the con of off limits is. It doesn't let you stay on top of the fish like that. Okay. Another con to having off limits is that you're not out there every day. You're not out there staying sharp. You're not out there constantly fishing, having a feel for the bites. You're not out there. And here's a big one. And before I say this, I don't want anybody to think that this is even going into the realm of snaking people's spots. We all know that happens. Okay. What I'm going into and that I want to talk about in this aspect is that when you're out on the water and you're having a hard time practicing, okay, and everybody does this, if you're out deep and you're fishing and you see 400 other boats that have been shallow all day, well, then it's just free information that by just sitting down, looking at the lay of the lake, where everybody's at. If you see 400 boats on the shore running frogs, well, then you probably need to get up there and start running a frog on the bank, because obviously if there's that many good anglers on the water and they're not out there fishing where you're at, then maybe you want to go to the bank. Vice versa too. If you're on the bank running and you see a bunch of boats offshore, then you might want to get offshore and start fishing. Okay. So that's a con to having off limits. You're not out there to see how things are adjusting. You're not out there kind of getting that free information. Now, I'm not talking about idling by, Joe out there that's fishing offshore and you're like, what's over there? And you idle within 100 feet of them and just, we all know how that goes. You've all been a part of it out there. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just looking around the lake and you see guys out fishing. Okay. Having off limits time doesn't allow you to be on the water where you can see those things. Another con to having off limits time is, simply come down to personal opinion. Cons and pros are personal opinion, and there's pros to each and there's cons to each. We've talked about we've just covered a bunch of that. off limits this, off limits, is good for this and that. So I ask you in the comment section, I want you to talk about, I want you to put, for off limits and then explain why you would be for off limits. And if you're not for off limits, put not for off limits and give me an explanation. I would love to talk about this. Now we're going to go over to, not having off limits, whatsoever. What it kind of creates in a fashion, in the fishing industry. Okay. And like I said, this is just personal opinion too, for me. Right now, the way the fishing industry is going is that, and you hear it all the time. Well, I don't have a live scope. I don't have a 360. I can't go out there and fish deep. I don't have this. I don't have that. Well, guess what? You don't have to have that stuff to be successful. Okay. I don't have to have off limits time to be successful is my point. But what I want to point out is one simple factor that definitely sets yourself up for success is spending time on the water as much as you can. I don't care what video you go out there and watch, what angler has made the video. They will tell you the number one thing to do is spend time on the water. The more time on the water spent equals more success. So if you're out there all week long, okay, and you are fishing, you get to stay on top of the fish, like I said. You get to know every single aspect, okay? But the guy that may be a very good fisherman has to work, 7 to 5, 7 to 4, whatever you want to say. He is now kind of at a disadvantage, okay? And I'll go back to saying that in the very beginning, how I was talking about, having off limits time doesn't necessarily give a disadvantage to either angler. It creates an equal playing field. Okay. Yes. If you're a guy that can afford to be out there all day long, every single day during the week before your tournament, that's great. Okay. You're going to get an advantage compared to guys not being off the lake. You see what I'm saying? Or, I mean, guys, let me rephrase that. The best way to put this is if you're on the water all week long for a tournament, okay, you're going to be at an advantage versus the guy that could not get on the water all week. There, that was said better. So if you got a guy that can't go out there, it is hard to compete against guys that are out there every single day fishing. It is hard. And unfortunately, in this fishing industry and the way things are going, it's really hard to be successful if you can't afford to be out there all week because you're not on top of the fish. You're not constantly seeing what's going on. And you could still go out there and rock a giant bag on your tournament day. But the odds of you winning against a guy that knows how to practice and isn't going to beat up his fish all week, and a guy that doesn't get out there all week and he fished the weekend before and then he got one practice day just to basically go check his prime spots, the angler that is not able to be out there is at a major, huge disadvantage versus off limits. If you're off limits, nobody gets any information on the water that week. It makes you adjust and use your skills as an angler and adjust on the fly. And, versus, is the fishing industry tailoring to guys that have a lot of money and that if you have a lot of money, you're going to be successful? Because that's, in my opinion, that's the way things have kind of looked here lately. And I would say at least in the last, if you take COVID out of the equation, the last 2 or 3 years. And I know a lot of people's going to completely disagree with me on that. And there's going to be a bunch of people that says, well, these fishing organizations, these tournaments and stuff, they don't care what you do, which I'll agree. A lot of it, they don't really care too much, it seems, in general. But that's just my opinion, and we could dive into that in another video. But I think that what's important to stay on topic here is they don't create off-limits time because they don't want to hinder anybody and they don't want to lose business. But I think we're getting to a point where they're going to have to draw a line, because if I was running a tournament organization and, I wanted to have a lot of numbers, yeah, you wouldn't want the off-limits time, because a lot of guys out there that you'll find, and gals, are super against off-limits time because they can afford to be out there all week. Okay. And on top of that, let's say you work weird hours and you can't fish the weekend before, but you're off on like Wednesday, Thursday, or Monday and Tuesday of that week, then you can go out Monday and Tuesday and fish. But if you have to work the weekends, yeah, you're going to be at a disadvantage. So where is the equal, like, where's the happy median? You know what I mean? Where's it at? Is off limits good? Is off limits bad? And I would love, like I said, for everybody to talk about this in the comment section. And now I'm going to dive into, we've covered the pros, we kind of covered the cons of stuff, and we've been digging into not having off limits. You could be out there all week, you can look at the fish, you can go cover about 1 million spots, you can do just about anything you want, okay? If you're a guy that's got to work, you can't be out there. So is that, like I said, is the fishing industry tailoring to everybody that can just afford to be out there 24/7? And we all know, as high as gas prices are right now, and as expensive as everything has become, man, I can't afford to be out there all week, even if I wanted to be. So on the other scale of things, I'm going to dive into now, like, I believe personally that off limits is the way to go. And a lot of people are probably going to subscribe for me or not hit like or hit dislike on this thing. And that's okay, because that's what this is all about. It's about your opinion, my opinion, and everybody else's opinion. The reason I like off limits has nothing to do with me wanting to be on the water or not wanting to be on the water because I can't be on the water. It has to do with simply taking and having a more structured event. Okay? There are lie detector tests out there, and there are people that's going to cheat. And even if off limits time, people are going to go out there and not say anything. Okay? It's going to happen. But I think you level the playing field as far as time on the water when you have off limits. Okay? Like recently, the Bass Champs had the Texas Shootout, $50,000 for first place. They had off limits all week with your official practice day on Saturday and the tournament taking place on Sunday. They drew 290 boats at the end of June, where it's well over 100 degrees every day. And then if you throw in the heat index, you're talking about 110. Okay? So they were pretty successful. Was it because of the big purse? Was it because of the off limits time? I don't know. I just believe that if we take some of these bigger organizations, like the Toyota Series would be a phenomenal example of this. It already costs you $1,900 to enter, roughly. I think it's $1,800 or $1,900 to enter it. Okay, so if you have the money to enter it, or you have phenomenal sponsors that can help you enter it, then you have to take off from work the entire week to practice, and then for the tournament. Okay, because they fish Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So you got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to practice. Well, if you can't afford to take off work, you just take off work on Wednesday, and you get 1 day of practice. And maybe the weekend before, depending on where the event's at, if it's in your backyard, like here, my house, like Rayburn's right there, I can go practice. But if you got to drive up Texomo, you got to drive up Texomo the weekend before, come back, then go back up on Wednesday. If there's off limits time and they say that, hey, everybody's off limits, the tournament starts Thursday, official practice day is Tuesday and Wednesday, 2 official practice days. It puts everybody in that aspect in the Toyota Series, because when you get up to the Toyota Series, you're fishing it. That's pretty much semi-pro these days. You're fishing against guys that own their businesses, that have phenomenal sponsors, that pay for a lot of stuff, and then you've got a great mix though. That guys that are trying to make it, guys that are in between, and then that upper echelon. But what it does is it levels the playing field for everybody on that entire series, that you get these 2 days of practice. Yes, you still got to take off work. So if you're going to fish Toyota Series stuff, you still got to take off work. But I'll even drop it down to the BFLs. Okay, let's take a step down and fish the BFLs. Let's talk about that. When you're fishing the BFL, there is no off limits all week. And you fish the tournament on, Saturday or Sunday, whatever they put it on. And, if it's on Sunday, official practice days could be Friday, Saturday. Okay. So then you have, in my honest opinion, you've leveled the playing field down there too. Okay. Because you see a lot in the BFLs now where even the BFLs guys are taking off all week for a BFL event. Okay. And with that being said, I guess it's a really tough thing to say. Is it fair for guys to be on the water all week long when you can't afford? Some people are just going to say, well, that's life. Get rich or, change something in your life to make it happen like that. Man, that's kind of hard to do these days, right? I guess it was hard to get all that money to go be able to take off and fish all week. But I think, like I said, I'm going to bring myself back to just for the tournament, leveling the playing field just for the tournament. It's not about the anglers, but the tournament. You've got a little more control. Like, guys were out there Thursday and Friday practicing. I think you'd see a major change in how many anglers would be joining this stuff. You're going to get a fall off, then you're going to get, or you could get an increase. It could be either way. But I think what's important to take away from everything that I've said today is, are you for off limits or are you not for off limits? And like I stated here at the end of this video, I'm for off limits. Not because I can't go out there and work all week. I just think that it makes you rely more on your angling skills, more on your instinct than it does just going out there and covering 4 million spots. It really, I think it would separate the really good anglers from just being able to be out there on the water, if that makes sense. Look, if you've got a guy that he doesn't know how to fish very well, or he has issues, locating fish, and you give him an entire week, well, he's eventually going to find fish. I mean, it's darn near impossible not to find fish if you had practice 8 hours a day, all day long, right? You're going to find something. You're going to. Now, if you take a, angler that, in that same aspect that has trouble finding fish, has trouble getting onto a pattern, and you put him into a 2-day practice, well, now he has to focus on his angling skills. He has to focus on what he's good at. He has to focus on what the fish are telling him, and not just going out there all week long and, well, this didn't work. Let's go to this. Let's go to this. You have to focus on becoming a better angler, in my opinion. And in order to become a better angler, you have to start understanding the who, what, when, where, why. Like I say in all my videos, you have to understand, where's the best place to go start at? Historically, what was the winning tournaments from last year? What were the weights and where were those bags coming from? What bait was going on? Is there a bluegill spawn going on? I think it just makes you become a better angler in the overall grand scheme of things, because you don't have all week to fail at things. You have 2 days to go and figure it out. And I think you would see a ton of changes as far as, I guess you could say winners, I don't think you'd ever see hardly the same winner winning, an event every single time because of the off limits. And it would just open up a whole new aspect to everything with off limits. And like I said, I'm for off limits. That's me. Some guys are going to be like, well, I'm not for off limits, and here's why. And I want to hear why. I want to know why. And you're going to find that I'm a very type of person that I love to have an open discussion, and I can have a discussion with somebody without getting into an argument, and let's be honest, today, that's really hard to do, especially on social media. You can't even say, if I say I like this pin the way it writes because it's the color blue, somebody be like, well, that's a piece of crap pin because it's a 0.7 millimeter and this, and this. Like, okay, well, that's your opinion, and I value your opinion. Maybe it makes me open my eyes up to some stuff that I wasn't fully aware of. But I think that's going to be all for today's video. I wanted to do just a quick talk about that. And it's been on my mind for quite a while. Off limits versus non-off limits. And there's pros and cons to each. And I think that as the industry continues to grow, you're going to find a lot more guys out there probably wanting more off limits time, because the prices of everything have gone up so high that in order to create an equal opportunity for all anglers, I think you're going to start seeing more off limits and stuff. And I personally would like to start seeing a little more off limits for things like the BFLs and the Toyota series and so forth. Because when you do get on those higher echelon tournaments, like what everybody's striving to go do on the Bass Pro Tour and things like that, there are off limits time. There's official practice days. and you got to travel, you get there, you do your official practice days, and you got to figure something out in that time. And if you don't, then you're scrambling, right? You're junk fishing after that, which sometimes is probably the best thing to do. So without any more input on this, I want to close this video out, and I would love to hear everybody's conversation take place. Either it's on my Facebook page at Average Fisherman #Chad Marlar, or on my YouTube page at Average Fisherman #Chad Marlar. Please comment, share, and like this video. And if you're on YouTube, please hit subscribe and turn on the bell notification, so that way whenever I put a new video up, you stay up to date on all the fishing stuff for Sam Rayburn and anything in between. So without further ado, let's end today's video. And I thank you all so much once again for being along for the ride. And please let me know what your all's thoughts are on this. Don't be in there hating in the comment section on people, because I will boot it. Okay, this is not what this is about. I want you all to have, with me, an open conversation about the pros and cons. So, be nice. Do a good deed today. As always, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Until next time, everybody, Marlar out.
You need 1620 right now. Got 1764. Nice work, guys. Are you whistlers right there?
Have it there, Kennedy.
Again now, right here. I know that one.